This was a very special moment. An orca so interested in a little boy that it wouldn't stop following him. Tommy, who loved every minute of it, couldn't help but laugh at the experience. But after that, something strange happened that he couldn't explain, and his view of the orca was forever changed. Tommy ran up and down the row of windows, and the orca followed him continuously. His little sister, Lola, thought the whole ordeal was hilarious and couldn't stop laughing. After a while, Tommy was out of breath from all the running. So they decided to head upstairs and sit down on the benches. Suddenly, a loud voice spoke through the speakers. "The Orca show will begin in about 5 minutes." Tommy and Lola looked delighted at each other as they sat down to watch the show. But they failed to notice the orca was still following them at every move. And that wasn't all. As the show was about to start, a large crowd filled the benches, but the orca still only had eyes for Tommy. Suddenly, Tommy noticed the orca was still staring, but now he felt a bit uneasy about it. They didn't call them killer whales for no reason. And then the orca does something no one expected. But why was the orca staring at Tommy? And what will it do that shocks everyone? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Tommy was a curious and adventurous little boy who loved everything about the sea. He spent hours playing with his toys in the sandbox, pretending to be a pirate on the high seas, hunting for treasure and battling sea monsters. So when his parents suggested a trip to the local aquarium, Tommy was ecstatic. Tommy had waited for this day to come for weeks. He told all his friends about their upcoming trip and couldn't sleep for days because of his excitement. He couldn't wait to see all the different sea creatures up close and personal, especially the orca, Tommy's favorite animal of them all. His mother, Allie, his father, Victor, and his little sister, Lola, were also excited, but not as much as Tommy. He spent days imagining what it would be like. All he could talk about at school or at home was the aquarium. It drove Victor a little mad, but after today, it would finally be over. It was a Wednesday, but Tommy and Lola got permission from their parents to skip school. Their parents would rather be in a somewhat quieter aquarium and make their kids miss school than go on the weekends when the aquarium is filled with visitors. And, of course, Tommy and Lola didn't mind. Tommy woke his little sister Lola up with a big smile on his face. "Lola, Lola, wake up! It's finally time to go to the aquarium," Tommy said excitedly. Lola slowly got up and rubbed her eyes. They got dressed together and ran downstairs, where their mother was already making breakfast. "Good morning," their mother, Allie, said happily. "Who's excited about school?" Allie winked at their IDs, and they all laughed at her joke. Tommy's father was still asleep, so Tommy went and woke him up as well. And as soon as everyone was set and ready to go, they hopped in their car and headed to the aquarium. It was about an hour's drive, but there was a lot of traffic, so in the end, it took them 2 hours to get to the aquarium. Victor's mood was far from happy because of the long drive, and Tommy noticed. But he knew his father, and if he said anything about it, he would get yelled at. Tommy's eyes grew wide with wonder as soon as they walked through the doors. He saw all sorts of fish, turtles, and even a shark. He was having the time of his life. First, they walked to the east wing of the aquarium, where they could look at all the different kinds of fish. They walked through the different sections of the aquarium, taking in all the sights and sounds. Tommy was mesmerized by the colorful fish swimming in the tanks and the playful dolphins jumping out of the water. He spotted Nemo and Dory, watched a sea lion show, and even got to pet a starfish. However, as they explored the aquarium's different sections, Tommy got separated from his parents. He panicked and ran frantically through the building, calling out for them. But no matter how loud he shouted, they couldn't hear him. Tears welled up in his eyes as he realized he was all alone in a large crowd of strangers. Tommy yelled for his mother but got no response. He yelled again, but louder, but still no response. Where could they be? Tommy ran back to the place where they spotted Nemo and Dory, but they weren't there anymore. He was only a little 6-year-old boy, so everyone around him seemed to be very tall and intimidating. His heart started racing as he ran through the aquarium. He wasn't looking at the animals anymore. He was only focused on finding his family back. But when he failed to find them, he couldn't help but cry. Tommy sat down and curled himself in a ball. Just when Tommy had given up hope of ever finding his parents again, he felt a light tap on his shoulder. His little sister Lola appeared out of nowhere. Tommy jumped up and hugged his sister tightly. She took his hand and led him through the crowds of people back to where their parents were waiting. Finally, they were reunited and continued walking through the aquarium. Tommy marveled at the sea creatures swimming around him in the underwater tunnel, feeling as if he were inside the water. Afterward, they headed to the Orca section. Tommy eagerly chose to watch them through the big glass windows, fascinated by his favorite animal. As he observed, one orca suddenly stopped swimming and stared directly at him. Curious, Tommy ran between windows, and to his amazement, the orca followed. He excitedly called his mother, who encouraged him to do it again. His little sister, Lola, laughed uncontrollably, and their mother even filmed the moment. Eventually, out of breath, Tommy went upstairs to sit by the enclosure, only to realize the orca was still watching him. As they ate lunch, an announcement came over the speakers. The Orca show would start in 5 minutes. Tommy was thrilled, but Lola grew impatient. Unable to wait, she threw her sandwich into the enclosure and almost ran after it. Their mother grabbed her just in time, but an orca had already eaten the sandwich. Embarrassed, Allie scolded Lola, who cried loudly. Just then, the show began, and they quickly returned to their seats. However, Tommy felt uneasy. While everyone had been distracted by the commotion, the same orca hadn't taken its eyes off him, and the excited feeling Tommy had in the first place slowly turned into an uneasy feeling. They didn't call them killer whales for no reason. As the show started, Tommy noticed the orca wasn't obeying its instructor. He told his mother, but she reassured him it was nothing unusual. Yet, Tommy felt something was off. While the other orcas performed as expected, one remained fixated on Tommy. A trainer noticed and approached his family, asking if Tommy had done anything to attract the orca's attention. Tommy explained it had already been watching him earlier. To his surprise, the trainer invited Tommy to join the show. Excited, he agreed, though his mother hesitated. After reassurance, she allowed it, staying nearby. On the platform, Tommy was introduced to the cheering crowd. He threw a fish into the water, and an orca performed a trick. Everything seemed fine until the fixated orca stealthily approached. Without warning, it created a massive wave, nearly sweeping Tommy off the platform. A trainer grabbed his life jacket just in time, but the orca launched another surge, dragging both Tommy and the trainer into the water. Panic erupted. Tommy's mother tried to reach him, but staff restrained her. Trainers quickly pulled Tommy and the trainer to safety, but the orca remained near the platform, eyes locked on Tommy. As Tommy moved, the orca followed. Staff attempted to lure it away, but it stayed fixated on him. Eventually, it swam off, and Tommy ran into his mother's arms, overwhelmed. Then, the orca returned, with something in its mouth. Instead of attacking, it tossed a ball toward Tommy. The tension lifted as the crowd realized the orca only wanted to play. Tommy, relieved, played along, forgetting his fear. The rest of the show was canceled, and Tommy continued playing until feeding time. On the way home, he excitedly recounted the event, remembering only the joy. His love for marine life grew stronger. He visited the aquarium more often and later became a marine biologist, forever cherishing the day that shaped his future.